Okay, another tip for getting renovations done in your home using contractors: keep your materials on your property. Keep your materials on your property. It might seem like a lot, but for anyone that has been scammed by a contractor, or I'm not even going to say scammed, but anything can happen. And if something happens to them and they can't perform their duties, they end up in the hospital, they get sick, they're not working, can't work, whatever. Of course, none of that is going to be in your contract. What happens if, they can't perform their duties, or an act of nature happens? You just don't know. But you have to take that into consideration. Keeping your materials on your property, you might say, okay, I'm getting a huge renovation done, a whole house renovation. Yeah, well then that's double for you. Get a pod and put it in your backyard, put it on your property. If you have your materials on your property and something happens to your contractor, you can void that contract with your contractor and have another contractor come in. You have your materials. But if you don't do that, something happens with your contractor, and even if just your contractor doesn't perform for whatever reason, they just might be sloppy. They might have told you that it would take 2 weeks and now it's taking a month, and you keep going back and forth with them, and they're not being upfront with maybe even the money. They might come back, they might quote you 20,000 and then come back and say, oh no, sorry, it's going to be 30,000. Well, all of that gets reduced if you have your materials on your property, because the only thing that you would be negotiating outside of that is their pay. But the materials, the markup, their markup is in the materials. So your flooring, plywood, whatever you need, you might say, okay, that seems like a lot, but you will go through more if they screw up the job and hold your materials hostage that you have already paid for, because you've already given them half. You've already put down, a certain amount of money, or, maybe even more than half. And they say, oh, well, we need more because we need to buy materials, whatever. Do yourself a favor, keep your materials on your property, and make sure that you break your job up into parts. You do not need to give them, if you're everything up front. So if you're doing a whole house, let them do, say, the bathrooms. And then we'll move on to the kitchen. And then we'll move on to the basement. And then we'll move on to the bedrooms. But do not have them in every part of your house. And if you have a home that can be separated upstairs, downstairs, maybe you have them work on the upstairs and then go to the downstairs, because you can live in the other part of the house while they're working on one part of it. But you have to be smart for yourself, and you do have to think outside the box and make sure that you always have the upper hand, because if something happens, you don't want to be paying double for work that needs to be done. And let's face it, taking them to court, you're not going to get something from nothing. So if they don't have it, you're not going to get it, and it's going to cost you way more to go to court over a renovation when you could have just been smart and made sure that you had the upper hand. So keep that in mind.